Hey guys, this is MalavarTCOne. I'm going to be going over my top 10 favorite Final Fantasy games and why. Be sure to stick around after the video to learn who the September Google Play gift card winners were and what the upcoming October giveaway is going to be. Starting off on the list at number 10 is Final Fantasy. Now, Final Fantasy is my number 10 spot because it is the very first Final Fantasy game in the series, and it really draws a player into what Final Fantasy is all about. It's all about story and character development and being immersed in a world that is not our own, and one where we have to save it by some means, or that it just revels in some sort of otherworldly experience. Final Fantasy brings us into that, and it will continue so throughout every Final Fantasy games since then. Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn is my number 9 spot. It's by far one of the best MMOs I've ever played in my life. Good story, good characters, good options, all around great graphics, and great boss battles. Great game altogether. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. Final Fantasy Tactics is my number 8. Final Fantasy Tactics is continuing in that great storyline where you just get immersed in a world and what it's going through, such as the political development and turmoil that is going through in the world of Final Fantasy Tactics. It is also connected to Final Fantasy XII, which gives it even more depth. Final Fantasy XIII is my number 7 spot. I just love the way that the characters have to push themselves through a situation in which they are bound in, and they have to figure out, why are we LC? Why are we in this situation? How can we get out of it? And they're trying everything they can to work their way out of this and find their way away from the what they suppose is the enemy, and how things develop and the enemy really changes to something bigger and grander. A lot of people give it a lot of scuff because of the confusing aspects of the storyline. That's why I'm not so big of a fan as 13-2 or Lightning Returns, but I do like 13. Final Fantasy XII is my number 6 spot. 12 continues in that connection to Final Fantasy Tactics. It's actually a prequel to Final Fantasy Tactics. Tactics is actually the follow-up game, even though it came out first. Final Fantasy XII is just that political turmoil again, and it's really hard to get into the game because it's a very slow battle system and very unique from other Final Fantasy games. But once you get through it and you understand it and you're able to get past the aspect of it being a little bit more difficult than other Final Fantasy games, the storyline really opens up and characters are pretty fun. Balthier being my favorite in the story. Next we have Final Fantasy VI. This is my number 5 spot. I really like Final Fantasy VI because of all the character development that you can see their individual lines and stories and what goes on with them, and there's very unique cutscenes if you do the right thing at the right moment. Very fun altogether. And one of my favorite villains of all Final Fantasy games, Kefka, is just out of his head, mad, insane, and so intense. I just love him. I love him in the sense of how much I love a villain. But the song that accompanies him, Dancing Mad, by far one of my favorite Final Fantasy songs of all time. Number 4 on the list, Final Fantasy VII. But who doesn't love Final Fantasy VII? It really brought us into the 3D genre of Final Fantasy games and has great story, great characters, and great shock value. Spoiler alert, obviously Aerith dies to Sephiroth, but when you play this the first time through and you don't know what's coming, oh my gosh, does that just hit you in the heart, because there's just so much growth and development between Cloud and Aerith, and learning a little bit more about who she is as a person and her character, and when she's just ripped from your party, it kind of rips a piece of your heart. Great game though, and you can tell by all the spin-offs, and there's even a remake of it. It's by far many people's favorite as well. Moving on, my number 3 spot is Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is one of the most awesome stories of redemption. I love the story that accompanies Cecil, how he turns away from his past, the past that made him this dark, Dark Knight for being literal. He was a murderer. He was someone who did vile, cruel things and wondered if what he was doing was really the right thing to do. And he abandons it. And he abandons one of his best friends, Kane, in order to pursue a better lifestyle. And he goes through such hardships in order to prove himself that he has changed and he is no longer that darkness that consumed him before. And he goes after the man who had changed him into the darkness that he was. And he becomes this paladin, this warrior of light, and he really redeems himself. It's a great story. Great characters as well. My number 2 on the list is Final Fantasy X. What a unique story. Being trapped in a futuristic dream and trying to redeem your people as Tidus and show, hey, like, we can make up for the sins of the past, much like the redemption story. Only it's unique because the sin is represented in this beast, this embodiment, right? And he has to show himself, hey, I am better than this. I am better than what my father was. I am better than my forefathers. I can make a difference where others could not. And he tries to teach those people in the future what just the recurring sins of the past, and doing the same thing over and over gets you nowhere, and that you really have to change what's going on and make a stand for what's right. I love it. Great story, great connections between characters, and the love story that accompanies Yuna and Titus, however you want to pronounce the name, is great as well. Not the best storyline, which gets me to my number 1 spot. I love Final Fantasy VIII, which you've probably heard me talk about before and talk about a lot, because it's not only personal to me, because it's not only my favorite game of all time, but it's my wife's as well. And the love story that accompanies this game is by far the best love story I've ever seen in any video game. That the love between Squall and Rinoa is so strong, it saves reality. Spoiler alert, the characters are all connected from their past to the future to everything in between. And not only the main characters, but the villains as well. They all have a connection that's very deep rooted. And spoiler alert, I gave you it again, being connected from the time that they were very young in the orphanage and knowing the villain. And their villain was their teacher, their matron, their guider, their and to have been turned by the power of being a sorceress and having that same power transferred over to Rinoa, and just this connection throughout all time is this really intricate and really powerful storyline. And I just love how it ends, and how through that connection, that love and care that Squall and Rinoa have for each other, they're able to bind reality back together again after it's been unraveled. Wonderful game, by far my favorite. Now let's get to the part you've all been waiting for, the September winners of the Google Play gift cards. The winners are FBS and McGaming13. Congratulations to both of you. You each get a $10 Google Play gift card. You can comment on the video below for me to get in contact with you. I also try to contact you by commenting on your videos where you won, on your comments in the videos that you commented on to win. And I will also try to message you on YouTube, and we'll figure out a way for me to get you those codes so that you can have each $10 Google Play gift cards. Congratulations again, FBS and McGaming13. Now I bet you're all wondering, what is the October giveaway? Well, let's drum roll, please. Final Fantasy 15. I'm going to be giving away a copy of Final Fantasy 15 to some lucky winner out there. Now, you have to, the deadline's October 31st, and the winner will be announced November 1st, but it will either be through PS4 or Xbox One, or through a gift card code for one of those two systems so that you can pre-order it yourself. Either way, if you need it physically or a code, I'll be willing to work with you on that, whoever the winner will be. Now, how you enter that, it's very simple. You simply have to like this video, share this video, be a subscriber, and comment your favorite Final Fantasy game below. And why? Tell me why you like that Final Fantasy. Like I said, the giveaway happens November 1st and the deadline is October 31st. However, there is more. There is a chance for 2 winners. If this video gets enough likes, enough subscribers, it's shared enough, and there's enough comments below, I will not only give away 1 copy of Final Fantasy 15, but I will give away 2. This is a deal of a lifetime. If you haven't pre-ordered it yet and you're still sitting on the fence about it, hey, here's a free copy, right? If you're the winner. So, best of luck to you. Be sure to like and subscribe and be sharing that video and getting more people to check this out. This has been MalavarTCOne, and best of luck.